Hello everyone, I hope you're having a great day. Today I'll be showing you how to do some text animations with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Here's what we'll be working with today. I'm going to show you how to do these cool animation and how to animate each text one by one using GSAP stagger. So before we begin the actual coding, let me show you the libraries we'll be using. We're going to be using GSAP, which is the best web animation library out there right now. And we would use split text animation to do the following animation we want, like this. But it's a paid plugin that you can get if you want, which does great stuff for you. But today I'll be doing this type of animation with vanilla JavaScript since we don't want to pay for the plugin. But if you do, I suggest paying for this and it'll make your life a lot easier. So let's get this started, and let's take another look at that. Boom. So let's get started with this. So the first step, as always, is to create an index.html file. And let's add our boilerplate, which is shift, exclamation mark, enter, and Visual Studio Code. Let's change the title to text animations. Let's save that. And let's link a few things. So we're gonna be using a custom font called Poppin. So I'm bringing that over. Let's link those two. I'm bringing it over from a finished project just to save some time. And let's also link our style sheet. But first, let's create that. We're gonna create a file called style.css, which will hold our styles for the project. And we'll create an app.js, which will hold the functionality. So let's link those two before we get started. So let's link our style sheet. Boom, right there. And let's bring in GSAP and our app.js. And paste those in the bottom right here. So this script right here is for the plugin GSAP, and this is for our app.js file, which we created right there. And we want those to be linked to our index.html. So now that we got those two up and ready, let's just add H1 to test that everything's working. Let's go live. All right, everything's working. And this is what we want to create by the end of this project. Boom, look how nice that looks. All right, let's get started. So the first step we want is to add a nav, which is very quick. It's just gonna be one thing, a nav bar with a H1 with a class name logo. A quick shortcut is dot, and then you put the name you want, and that'll create your div with the class name, logo, and we're gonna name it fast cars because we love fast cars. All right, let's save that. There you go, we got that right there. And before we start diving and adding all our hero section, let's just add a few styles. Global styles that we always add. We're gonna remove all the margins using the universal selector, which is this right here. It targets all elements in your HTML file. We want to change the margins to 0, the padding to 0, and the box sizing to border box. I do this in all my projects to reset the properties that are already given to your elements initially with the HTML doc files, since we want to style everything according to our system. So we remove all the margins, remove the padding, so we change the box size. See? We want the body to have the font Poppins, so we're gonna put font family. Poppins, Poppins, and that's a sans serif font. Let's save that and see if it changed. There you go. Now we got pop-ins right there. And let's just add a few properties to our nav to make it look how we want it. So we want the minimum height to be 10 VH. We want it to be displayed flex. And we want it to be justified content center and align item center to place it perfectly in the middle. So let's save that and take a look. Boom. Now we have it right where we want it. Let's change a few things on our logo property, which is our H1. We want to change the font size a bit to, let's say, 16 pixels. And we'll change the color to, let's see, we'll just put black for now. And we want it to be overflow hidden, since our animation will need it to have that to work perfectly. All right, there you go. Let's forget that font size, change it a bit, 24 pixels. All right. Now that we have our nav ready, let's start working on our hero section. So for our hero section, we're going to create a div with a class name called hero. Within that hero section, we'll have our image, which will have our hero G, and this is the image we'll be using for that. This, and just change the name to hero JPEG. That's the image we'll be using today as our background for the hero. All right, now that we have that, let's add the image. Okay, I'm gonna copy and paste that from our finished product to save time. So we'll have our image, our src links it right here to the hero PNG, and we're giving it the class name hero image. And for SEO purposes, I always recommend adding an alt. So just call it whatever you want. I'll call it cool car. This is good for people with screen readers and that are visually impaired. So you should always do that if you want to be correct and help everyone be able to access your web page. So now that we have that, we're going to create a div with a class name called CTA, which will hold all our text. Div class CTA. And within that div class, we'll have two other divs inside, which will hold our information. So one div will hold this one-stop shop, and the other div will hold for perfect cars. So let's work on that now. Let's add another div with a class name called CTA text. Dash text. There you go. And we want a H2 with a span so we can hide our text. You see how when we do that, it comes from the inside of this, comes out, and this comes to the right. So we want it to be a span so we can animate each section however we want. So let's add that CTA text. Let's add a H2. And that H2 will have a span inside of it. That span, let's give it a class of CTA1. And let's change that to 1 right here. So now we have that. H2 span CTA1. Let's just copy and paste that since we'll have 3 letters with the same name. 2, 3, CTA2, and CTA3. Let's change the text to what we want. One stop shop. Let's save that. One stop shop. Oh, now that we have our div, let's see and take a look. One stop shop. That's how we want it. And since we'll want 2 CTA text, we want one stop shop for perfect cars, we'll just copy and paste this. CTA text, right? Copy, paste it, and change this to CTA text 4, 5, and 6, since we're going to want to target each of them when we animate them with GSAP in our JavaScript file. So let's change that. One-stop shop for perfect cars. You can change the text to whatever you want once we finish the project and make this web page unique to you. And now that we have that div, here's the CTA text. Our last step in our HTML is just to add our button. We want a button with the class name of CTA button. Class CTA-BTN. And let's put explore. Save that. Okay, we got that, and we got that. All right, now that we got that, that should be all the HTML we need. All the stuff we need in our HTML file. Let's save it. One-stop shop for perfect cars. There you go. We have everything we want now. All our HTML ready. Let's change this back to 16 since I don't like it being that big. All right. Now that we got all our HTML ready, we can work with styling this. Let's style our hero section first. We want it to have a height of 80 VH. That takes up 80. VH takes up 80% of our view height. So it's 80% of the up and down. And let's change its margins to 0% up and down, top and bottom, and 10% left and right. Let's save that. Now let's target our hero sections image. Let's give it a width of 100%, a height of 100% also. Save that. And now we have it just how we want it, like over here. And the one problem you'll run into if you do like I did is when you make it responsive, look, you see how the image folds onto itself. A fix for that is changing the object fit to cover. That'll make it look great when you shrink the image down in size, you see? And no longer smushes it into itself. It keeps its aspect ratio. All right, now we got that hero section working with. Now let's style our CTA. We're gonna make it position absolute since we want it to be placed right on top of our image. We'll change the top to 50%. Left to 50%. And we'll add transform translate -50 and -50% to center it also. We want the color to be white. Display flexed since we wanted them to be aligned next to each other. Change the flex direction to column and we'll align them center. Save that. Now we have them how we want it. One-stop shop for perfect cars. Okay. Now we changed our CTA right here to columns, so they're all stacked on top of each other. Now we're gonna target the CTA text and change them to display flex so they could align each other horizontally instead of vertically. dash text. I forgot to add the dot. And put display flex, and we'll change the font size to 24 pixels. There you go, one-stop shop for perfect cars. We almost have our styles just how we want it. Let's add a bit of padding to it. We'll do that by targeting the span. We'll add padding 0 to the top and bottom, and we'll add, let's say, 8 pixels to, there you go. Let me add 4 pixels. Let's see. Yeah, 4 pixels is what we want. And we'll target the CTA text and give it a display overflow hidden. My bad. Give it overflow hidden to the H2. And since it's a span, we're gonna have to change its property to display block so we can change its X and Y properties later on when we animate it. When you're trying to animate objects and elements within your HTML file, remember that span elements do not allow you to change their X and Y property given their display. So you have to change that to display block or display inline block. Just remember that. And we'll add a text shadow just to make it a little bit stand out from the picture. I'll copy and paste that to save us time. All right, text shadow. Let's save that. Let's take a look. All right, now we have that where we want it. Let me just change this font size a little bit. Increase it. There you go. And the last step is to style our CTA button, which is right here. Now just copy and paste that over to save us some time since there are not that many properties. There's a few properties on there, but it's nothing special. So we're gonna change its margin to 1 rem. Just to make it more easier for you to read. Let me change that to 16 pixels. We'll change the padding up and down also to 8 pixels. And the left and right to 24 pixels. There you go. Now we have our button how we want it. We added background white. We changed the font family. We added a border radius of 0.3 rem, but since we weren't working with pixels, let me change that to 8 pixels. And let's add a font size of 16 pixels. Okay. Lower the pixel size. No, it's too small. Let's go back to like 12. Alright, that should work. And that does it for all our HTML and CSS. Save that. Alright, now that we have that, let's start working with our app.js to make this animate. So the first step for this, as usual when working with a GSAP, is to create a timeline for your animations. Const timeline, GSAP.timeline. parentheses, brackets. And within the brackets, you want to create a thing called defaults. We'll add a duration. Of 0.75. And we'll add an ease to it of power 3 ease out to make sure everything's working. And I'll just copy and paste that. So we created a const for our GSAP timeline. We added a duration of 0.75 and we added an ease of power 3 ease out right there. Let me just show you over here. And this is where you get, if you're looking how to work with GSAP, you can just go to the docs timeline, and right here it'll explain to you how to create a basic GSAP timeline. That's what we're doing. And the first thing is we want to change our image and add that animation to make it large and go small. So we're gonna affect the scale of it and the border radius to make it have this border around instead of being square how we have it right here. So to do that, we'll create a TL, we'll work with our timeline, and we'll add from to. From to tells it to go from one axis to another. So let's target our hero image. We want to begin with a scale of 1.3, which will make our image larger. Scale changes the size of your image, so we want it to be 1.3, the size it is right now. And we'll add a border radius dot of 0 pixels. You need to add the parentheses, my fault. And this is what it'll go from 1.3 with border radius 0 to a scale of 1, which is our original size. It would change the border radius to 24 pixels. And we'll give it a delay of 0.35. A duration of 2.5 seconds. And we'll add an ease to it of elastic dot out. GSAP has a few different variations of eases, and if you want to look at it, I suggest going to the docs and taking a look at other eases. And that should do it. Boom. See? We added a long duration because when you add an ease of elastic, it takes a long time to do the animation, so we wanted to speed it up a bit. Here's are the GSAP eases if you want to look at it. So you have power 1, power 2, power 3, back. Elastic, that's the one we're using since we want it to come in and out. See, boom. Then it takes that little bounce right there. All right, now that we have that, our next step is to work with our CTAs to make them. We want our text to come in from left and right, so that's the next step. This is gonna be a lot of steps, but since they're all the same, we'll just copy and paste them all. Since we're targeting all 6 of our CTAs, we're gonna have to do a TL from 2. We'll target the first one, CTA 1, and then we'll tell it to go from X 100%. Since we want it to be hidden, and we'll add an opacity. Of 0.5. And the end result will be to bring it back to its original position. So we want x dot dot 0, and we want the opacity to be 1. And we'll add a less than 20% to speed up the animation to match with the hero image 1. Let's save that. And now we have the animation we want. So we're making it come in from, we're making this one start right here behind the stop, and it's sliding back into its original position. That's why we added overflow hidden in the beginning to our span over here. Where is it? Right here, overflow hidden. And overflow hidden to our CTA text. So we can hide the text and animate it. So let's take a quick look. I'll change the opacity to 1, and I'll put this at 50%, and you should be able to see. You see, it starts right there. So once you change it to 100%, it completely is hidden behind the other text. All right. And let's just copy and paste that multiple times. Would work with a CTA 3 and CTA 2. Since we want CTA 2, the middle one to be the last one to animate. So this one will start at X minus 100. And everything else will be the same, since we want it to start from the left and go to the right instead of going from the right to the left. And our CTA 2, we want it to come from the top, from the bottom to the top. So we'll change that Y to 100% and the Y to 0 to bring it back to where it originally was. Save that. Boom, there you go. And we'll do the same for the other animation. So let's just copy and paste that. CTA 4, CTA 6, and CTA 5. And those can stay the same since all our animations will be in the same direction, just targeting different CTA classes. So let's save that. Boom, perfect, just how I wanted it. And the last step is to animate these buttons for make it go from the bottom to the top. So that should be the same with a TL from to. And we'll just target the CTA button. And I'll just copy and paste that to save time and explain to you what we're doing. So timeline from to, we're targeting the CTA button. We're telling it to go from Y20, which is the bottom, and go back to Y0, which is the top. And we give it opacity 0 to be hidden. And this less than syncs up the animation with all the other animations. So let's save that. Boom. There you go. The last step is to work with this one, fast targets, right here to make it do that animation. And if you want to make it simple for you, you could purchase a GSAP plugin, split text, and it'll work and do that for you quite simple, like that. But since we're not trying to buy this plugin right now, I'll show you how to do this animation with vanilla JavaScript. All right. Split text animation. So the first thing is we want to create a const logo and we want to document dot query selector since we want to target our logo right here, div class logo. We're targeting that with query selector. And then we want to create another const called letters, letters equals logo dot text content, which will target the logo's text content, which is all the letters we want, which is this fast cars logo that text content. We want to target that and split it. We'll use split to create an array for each of those letters. There you go. We're targeting the logo, the text within it, and we're using the dot split to create an array for each letter. So F, A, S, T can all be targeted on their own. Let me show you over here. Dot split JavaScript. The split method takes a pattern and divides a string into an ordered list of substrings by switching the pattern. So you see we have the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. And if you use dot split, it splits it up into single substring. So that way you can target each one of the letters individually. So now you can target fox, you can target jump, all of them individually, which is what we want to do to create this animation. We want to be able to target each letter to animate once. So animate them all at the same time. So now let's change that logo, that text content, and make that an empty string. So we can hide the text. You see? Since we want it to animate when we tell it to. So to animate the text, we'll create a for each that targets each letter. I'll just copy and paste that and explain to you what we're doing. So we're gonna create letters that for each, and we want our parameter to be letter. So we're gonna do logo.inner HTML. We're gonna add a span with the class name letter and add our letter to it. If we take off this text reveal right here, you'll see that we'll have 2 of them. Fast car, fast car. That's why we added that line, to create an empty string first, so we won't have 2 of them. And now, since we did that, we can target each letter individually with a span class letter. And if you want to learn more about for each, you can search that up also. The for each method executes a provide function for each array element. So you can target each one of them individually. All right, now that we have that, the last step is to use GSAP to animate each letter individually. So GSAP, that's set dot letter, and we want it to change that span class to display block. We'll change that to inline dash block. We want to do that since span element is not allowed to change its X and Y property. So, since its display is not block or inline block, so we're changing that. And now the last step is to add a from to, like we've been doing before. Dot from to, and we're gonna be targeting each letter individually. That's why we're targeting the class letter right here. And we want it to go from y dot 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 100% to y0 to move it back to its original position. And let's just copy and paste that to save time, since this video's been going a little bit long. So we want it to start at y 100%, which is to top, and come back to its original spot. So it's going from y 100% to y0, which is the original position. The delay will be 2 seconds. And this stagger function property allows each element to be animated individually. So if we take that off, you see what will happen. You see, it just comes up by itself. But stagger allows each one of those elements to come in staggered. Boom. Now we have our animation just how we want it, and the ease is back.out3. So there you have it. That's our text review animation with GSAP and some vanilla JavaScript. There you go, that's the code. I hope you have a great time learning how to do GSAP text animations. And let's take a final look at our finished product. Just how we wanted it. Thanks for watching this tutorial. I hope you have a great time.